Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to Q3 FY24 earnings conference call of Finolex Cables Limited. As a reminder, all participants will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star and 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Ms. Mamta Samat from Perfect Relations. Thank you, and over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Sagar. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Finolex Cables Limited Q3 FY24 earnings conference call. Today we have with us the senior management represented by Mr. Mahesh Viswanathan, Chief Financial Officer. Before we begin, I would like to say that some of the statements that will be made in today's discussion may be forward-looking in nature. We will begin the call with the opening remarks from the management, after which we will have the forum open for the interactive Q&A session. I will now request Mr. Mahesh Viswanathan for the opening remarks. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mamta. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for participating in today's call. Some brief remarks from my side. I'm sure all of you have already seen the numbers and you probably have some questions. But to recapitulate the numbers, our revenue for the quarter was about 1,222 crores, up from 1,187 crores. That's about 3% higher than the immediately preceding quarter, and up from 1,150 crores, which was the revenue for the corresponding quarter of the last year. That's about 6% higher. On a 9-month basis, the revenue was 3,613 crores, up from 3,256 crores, which is about 11% growth. Overall, within the segments, volume growth in electrical cables was about 8%, and the communication cables, which is the second largest group that we have, there the volume growth in the metal-based products were kind of flat, whereas there was a decrease in the optic fiber-based products. The reason for that was simply that the tender which was expected on BharatNet has still not been floated as yet. That tender is expected to consume approximately 2.5 million kilometers of fiber over the course of its duration. But the tender is expected to be floated now, sometime in the within the next week is what we hear now. So if you add another couple of months before the awards are issued, then the expectation is that revenue flow will start from at the earliest Q1 next year, at the latest probably Q2 next year. That is when the revenue stream will start to flow. On the private telecom side, the two larger players, both Reliance and Bharti, did not invest so much on the cable assets during the last quarter. My understanding is that Reliance was focusing more on operationalizing the 5G rollouts that it had done, whereas in the case of Bharti, they normally conduct a reverse auction, and they started the reverse auction process only towards November. They went through 4 rounds, and the last round was concluded last week. While we have positions, the contract is yet to be closed. So both private players, large private players, in terms of procurement, did very little in the last quarter. So these two were the basic reasons for a very low revenue in the communication cable segment. They show that will turn around in the coming quarters. The other comments that I wanted to make was, yes, there was a slight slippage in the margins on the electrical cable side. We had been averaging around 14% over the past 2-3 quarters. It dropped to 12 in the last quarter, but that is primarily an issue of product mix. rather than anything else. That should again change in the long term, and we should get back to the normal levels of 13.5%-14% sooner than later. Beyond this, there is nothing really much to comment on. So I'll close my brief opening remarks now and then open up for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone phone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets only while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Shivam Mittal from Punartha Investment Advisors Private Limited. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Your voice is a little garbled. Can you be a little clearer, please?
Hello. Am I
Yeah.
audible now? Clearly?
There is some echo.
Okay.
Mr. Mittal, if you are using the speaker mode, may we request you use the handset mode to ask a question?
Is this better now, sir?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Sir, in communication cable, like which product constitute what percentage of sales, like how much optic fiber?
Optic fiber based products would be around 2/3 of the
How much, sir? Sorry.
2/3.
2/3. All right. And what additional top line we expect, like from on-screen projects, and when we will be able to achieve those top line?
That's what the CapEx that we have talked about in the last couple of quarters. We expect demand to go up once the BharatNet tenders are floated and announced. Secondly, as we've always been saying, the potential for demand in our country is far higher than what it currently is. And as and when 5G applications, more of use cases get rolled out, the need for fiber deployment will increase. And so we are actually, the deployment of capital that we are doing today is planning for the future. And we do believe that our country has the potential to consume upwards of 50 kilometers of fiber every year. China today consumes approximately 400 million kilometers every year. So there is definitely a need for fiber deployment. But as use cases develop and as fund availability improves, I think that should happen.
Sir, considering EVM project and preform and fiber capacity, how much like additional top line we are targeting?
We have already said those numbers in the earlier calls, so I can refer you to the previous minutes. That would be easier. I don't think there is a need. I don't think we have made any revisions to those numbers.
All right. Sir, volume growth has been like 8%.
Right.
So, yeah, first quarter it was 30%, second quarter 10%, and now 8%. So, sir, any particular reason?
No, I think there was a little bit of catch up. In the 30% part probably was catching up from earlier lows. I think 2-digit numbers should be sustainable, but not in their 20s and 30s. I think the mid-teens is what would be sustainable in the long run.
All right. Sir, can you provide like region-wise volume growth, like how much from east, north, which area contribute what percentage? So
typically our strength is largely in the west and the south, where close to 45% of our revenue comes from, followed by the west, which is approximately 30%. North and east put together is of the balance 25%.
All right. Sir, in last call, like you mentioned, to remove power cable revenue to compare our performance with peers.
Correct.
Can you provide us those comparable revenue numbers, because peers don't provide that data?
I also have the same problem. I do know that some of them have extremely large power cable businesses. The power cable business, our estimate is approximately between 25,000 crores in a year. And our exposure to that is approximately 180 crores. So we are a very, very small player there. So it would help if the numbers are segregated, but then that is not what everybody discloses. There is no statutory requirement to do so, so nobody discloses except I think one company. So it's kind of difficult to compare that. We can only make guesstimates, and I don't think that's the best way to do something.
All right. Sir, what is the capacity utilization currently going on?
Around two-thirds again, 65-66%.
All right. Sir, we had a consultant to work upon inventory levels to improve working capital efficiency.
Right.
And any update on that?
It's an ongoing project, but then initial results have started to come in. So if you, while the third quarter doesn't require the balance sheet numbers to be published, there have been promising results. Our overall inventory, from raw material all the way to finished goods, is now at about 1.5 months. It used to be 1.8, 1.9 months earlier on. And obviously the values have also declined in proportion. The control on receivables continues. We're at 14 days now against 15, 16 days earlier. So the work that the consultants have done has definitely helped us, but it's been 6-7 months since that project has gone live. I think more results will come in as we progress in time and as the software that is in use does more self-learning. So it is able to adjust itself to situations on a dynamic basis. So as it learns more, it will be more efficient.
Okay. Sir, can you provide number of distributor count or channel partners?
700 plus numbers. About 730 people, I think.
730.
Yeah.
And the channel partners?
Channel partners, we have approximately 4,500 of them. Probably out of that, around 2,000 are active. When I say active, they buy every month. Some of them buy multiple times every month. The others may not be buying that in that periodicity.
All right. Sir, any update on pending litigation you want to give, minority shareholders?
Well, I do not have any updates on that. Like I said in the previous call, the litigation is between two shareholders. As and when we get updates, we would, of course, where the company is involved and needs to inform shareholders, we would put them in the public domain. But otherwise, I don't have any updates at this point in time.
All right. Sir, channel partner has not grown quite for a long time, like 4,500, 5,000 kind of numbers we have seen.
Yeah, because what we said was while we will retain those channel partners, we will grow into the retail markets through a distribution channel, which is why we started investing on the distribution setup and appointment of distributors. So geographies where we were not present earlier, or we were not reaching because the channel partner was servicing them out of his shop. We now have a distribution setup which brings the material to the retailer's place. So the strategy was clearly to grow rapidly through a distribution setup.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. That's all from my side.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sonali Sonalkar from Jefferies. Please go ahead.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity. So my first question is regarding the volume in electrical cables. Could you throw some color to the segment-wise, as in the end user segment-wise volume growth? In particular, is any segment decelerating that, we have seen such deceleration in the volumes quarter on quarter?
Not really. I mean, the growth has been fairly even across the board. Okay, segments that have done much better than others have been the auto segment that has grown considerably, and also the agricultural piece. Both have grown higher than the others. But there has been growth in all the product offerings.
So about the construction, is the housing/construction going on, as strong as we had seen in the earlier quarter?
Not as strong. There is a slight dip compared to the earlier quarters, but it is still more than positive.
Understood. The second question is on the margins. You did talk about the reason why the margins have come off a bit. But again, in the product mix, anything you would like to further detail out as to why the margins slipped, quarter on quarter, and where should we, or rather, when should we expect normalization of margins?
Well, the proportion of auto cables to total has increased. So, as you know, auto cables is a B2B product, and with fairly thin margins. So, if that proportion goes up, then it obviously impacts the overall numbers. As I mentioned, agricultural applications have also gone up. There again, the margins are not as lucrative as the standard construction wire is. That's the second part. And within construction wire, we've had more of project-related sales where while there is a volume, the prices are, when you're trying to sell larger volumes to the building community, you get higher discounts. So those are the three major issues.
Understand. So are we structurally shifting more towards auto/agri, or can this be just...
No, it's not a structural shift towards do anything. The demand from these sectors were higher, and therefore that's a reflection in the end margin.
Understood. So thirdly, on your capex and capacity, so could you help us understand of your cables and wires, how much is cables, how much is wire? And I know you did say that our utilization is about 65-70%, but are there any pockets where you are facing capacity constraints, or are we well off with capacities as of now?
On the wires and cables, at the moment, there is no real issue on capacity. We will be able to service easily another 15% increase in volumes without... there might be some balancing needs, but not in the initial 15% increase. But because we have been continuously over a period of time adding wherever balancing requirements were needed, we have been adding every year. So these numbers do not get reported separately because these are less than in a plant, maybe 5-6 crores of additional equipment that improves the output there. And that has been something that we've been doing every year. So I don't see an immediate need for additional expenditure on the wire side, except as we mentioned in the earlier call, auto cables, we are increasing capacity at Uttaranchal, seeing that we do perceive a need for larger quantities up in the north from the vehicle manufacturers or the harness manufacturers. And so we did announce an expansion out there. The orders have been placed and the equipment is expected sometime around July, August this year. Once that happens, then I think the auto cable needs for the time being is satisfied. On the other capex, those would primarily be around the fiber business. So on preform production, on additional capacity on fiber bar, and cable production. So as we mentioned earlier, in phase 1, we are setting up a preform plant which will produce approximately 100 tons of preforms in a year, which translates to somewhere around 4.5 to 5 million kilometers of fiber. We currently have 4 million kilometers of fiber draw capacity. We will expand that to 8 million over 2 years. And we have planned additional expansion of the cabling capacity to take care of the additional fiber that will come up. So these are the plans that are in place, of which, if I talk about the preform part, the phase 1 equipment has already arrived. The building construction should get over in the next month and a half, after which erection of the equipment would take place. So we expect preform production to commence earliest around the end of second quarter next financial, latest in the beginning of third quarter next financial. The fiber draw towers, we expect that to be ready by the next financial year, that is 25-26. And as and when the Bharatnet tender is rolled out, and then once we have an idea of the volume that we are able to secure, the orders for the cabling equipment will be placed. The building is already ready. The cabling equipment is awaiting ordering. So that's the story on the fiber piece. On the other big part of CapEx is around the E-beam and its connected components. The E-beam building is now ready, including the bunkers. The first set of equipment has left Korea last week, and it is expected around the 16th to 17th of this month. And then commissioning would start hopefully by end of February or earliest by early March. We expect that to start production sometime in quarter 1 next year. So that's the first piece of equipment. The second piece of equipment is expected to arrive in May this year, followed by installation and commissioning maybe 2 months thereafter. As we mentioned in the last call, the E-beam process will require different insulation compounds, and we're already working on setting up a compounding plant for making that insulation material, and that should be ready by end of this year. Until then, of course, we will buy out that compound from third sources. But once we have our own plant, then that will be value accretive. So that's on the E-beam piece. I already talked to you about the auto cable expansion in Turkey. The last piece is that, for our Goa plant, we currently send the insulation compound here from Pune. But as volumes have grown, we are now putting up a compounding plant in Goa to meet its own needs. The paperwork around getting permissions from the various authorities is underway. We expect those to be closed before the end of this. Once that happens, then construction and equipment ordering, commissioning, etc. will follow. So that's the whole piece on capex for the moment.
Thank you for the very detailed answer. Very helpful. So, of your overall mix, how much is cables and how much is wires?
So, like I said, our annual cable business is approximately 150-180 crores. So, out of let's say last year we did 3,700 crores of wires and cables, out of which I think 150 was cables. I don't think the proportion has changed substantially in the current year.
More towards cables, you're saying?
No, less towards cables. I mean, about the same towards cables, more towards wires.
Okay. The last question from my side, any notable pricing actions we have seen in the last quarter going forward?
We had, so if you remember, copper prices during quarter 2 were averaging around $8,400, $8,500 ton. October they dropped to 7,200, 7,300 levels also. So in October we took a price drop of about 3.5%, I think. And then again in December, the curve went back up to 8,400, 8,500. So we have taken another correction, this time upward correction in December of around 2.5%, I think. So those are the two actions that we took on pricing.
Understand. And optic pricing globally, is that now stabilized?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Optic fiber pricing globally
has been low. Has continued to be low until about a month ago. I think over the last 1 month, we are seeing quotations of somewhere around 270 rupees a kilometer for the standard fiber. 270 to 275 has been the range. It's a substantial drop from 350, which used to be there about a year and a half ago. But I think it's been stable there for some time now.
Understood. So thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Praveen Sahai from Prabhudas Lilladher. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Thank you for opportunity. So just to continue the last questions on the optical fiber, the prices definitely on the YOI side has been down by more than 20%. So is it fair to assume that especially in your communication cable, where the revenue has been down by 11%, how much is the volume? Is it a positive volume you have?
No, there has been a volume drop also. The volume drop has been almost 20%.
20%.
Yeah, I mentioned to you that there has been no government business, absolutely no government business during the 9 months, so except for one small tender of, I think, 10,000 or 15,000 kilometers. There has been no tender from the government. And Reliance has been buying, but they have been buying small fiber count cables to complete their 5G rollouts. None of the large fiber count cables, so fiber consumption has been low. And like I mentioned, Bharti's, normally they have a yearly contract, and that process starts around August, September. This time it got delayed, started around October, still hasn't been finalized. We've gone through 4 rounds of reverse auctions, and we believe we have a position, but contract is to be signed shortly. So not much of a uptake from them as well. So deployment has been more around O&M, maintenance, and very few large-scale rollouts.
Okay. And any clarity from the government, this project side that
the big one?
will come Bharat Net project?
Yeah, okay. So there were meetings with multiple stakeholders, the community of telecom operators or the service providers and so on. We have seen a draft of the tender that is likely to be floated. We are hearing that the tender is likely to be floated anytime now. So even this morning there was one piece of news that I got which said that we should see the tender being posted online either tonight or tomorrow. A little later somebody else came and said no, it may not be as early as today, tomorrow, but maybe within the next 1 week. So all I can feel is that it is imminent. But knowing the normal process of submissions or even prior to submissions, people might have questions which they require clarifications on. And then the submission process, the evaluation process, and finally the award. Minimum of 2 to 3 months would go in that process. So earliest I see awards being issued would be sometime, if all go quickly as per timelines, then towards the end of Q1 or maybe in Q2.
Right.
And then it is a 3-year program. So
yeah. So that is a 3-year program, and its expectation is from Q1 or Q2 revenue to start flowing.
Yeah. So if everything goes on timelines, then yes, from Q2 would be a better guesstimate.
Okay. And any quantum, like how big?
I think from what numbers that we see, it's over 9. It's over. There are going to be 16 or 18 packages, I think, divided into large and smaller packages. Total requirement is about 650,000 kilometers of cables of various sizes, and the estimated fiber consumption on this project is likely to be around 2.5 million kilometers.
Okay. All right. Thank you for this detailed answer.
But then this would also add to this. You would have electronics, the EPCPs, and the whole lot. So it's a fairly big tender.
Okay. The second question is related to the electrical side, electrical cable side, and you had also mentioned in the call that the slight dip in the construction activity. So how you are seeing the way forward? Like, is that the construction activity started softening, and especially the volume growth acceleration we will see in the downward trend the way forward? How you are seeing this segment to deliver?
I didn't say that construction has slowed down. I said that in proportion in this quarter we have sold more of automobile wires and agricultural wires than construction wires. And I also said that in proportion to the first quarter number, the construction wire number is slightly lower. Those are the statements I made. Construction activity visibly has gone up. But then, as you know, ours is a product which comes towards the tail end of a project's conclusion. So the structure gets finished first while the internals get finished later on. So I do hope that the momentum continues and demand shows up in the coming quarters. That's one. Second piece that I also said was that within construction wire, we have sold more to projects than to the retail. So that is an indicator that actually project business is continuing and doing fairly well. So I think that is it's just one of those cases where there is a small blip, but I think it is not something to read as a sign.
Okay. So just to continuation in this, definitely you had done better in the project and the retail somewhere in the low. So is that something you are seeing that the retail softness is there, or is just on a quarter phenomena?
I don't believe that it is time to be read as a major indicator. It could be one of those small blips, and one has to watch and see at least 2 quarters before one decides this is the way or that is the way.
Okay. Okay. And any differentiation in terms of the margin profile in the project and the retail? Is it?
There would be, because it's like this. You and I go buy a box of wire from the retail shop. Invariably, he is going to charge us MRP minus maybe a small discount for our face. But when, because we are going to buy one box or maybe at the most 2 boxes. But at a construction site, the builder is buying thousands of boxes, so he does demand a better price, ask. And the discounts are definitely higher out there. So, and if you have rate contracts with builders, then the ask is a little bit even more, because then your business volume is kind of known upfront. So you don't have to spend time, effort, and money on order acquisition. So that much money you save, but then you also give a discount.
Mm-hmm. Got it, sir. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Arko Pratim Pal from Sanjay Agarwal Broking. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Good evening. Am I audible?
Can you raise your voice a little bit, please?
So you're sounding a bit muffled, Mr. Pal.
Am I audible now?
Yes, it's better.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, for this opportunity. Most of my questions are already taken, so thank you for these details. One question I would like to ask is, your operating margin is now around 12%, which is quite impressive. Could you please elaborate on any potential changes in OPM that might be anticipated for this current quarter?
Could I please explain on changes where?
Changes in OPM, operating margin that might be anticipated in the current quarter?
I think we run a fairly tight ship. We have increased our ad expenditure over the last 2-3 quarters. That is something that would definitely be higher in this quarter than earlier quarters. But then the expectation also is that the volume increase and the consequent revenue increase will compensate for the changes in these expenditures. I do not expect any major changes to the profile.
Okay, sir. Thank you. And one more thing I would like to ask, that is, what is your expectation about the demand scenario of the current and coming quarter compared to the last quarter?
So we are largely, if you look at our product sales profiles, it is largely construction, real estate related. So as long as there are no sudden changes to the external environment, that external environment, I mean economic, political, both. As long as there are no sudden changes to those, I think there should be a fairly decent momentum to continue on the growth path. That's about as specific as I can be at this point in time.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, for your response. That's all I have now.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Mustafa from Psychis Investment Advisors. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. Some of the questions have already been answered. Just wanted to get some clarification on the demand environment, which is the sector mix in the company's revenue.
Which is a sector mix?
Yeah, sector mix in the company's revenue.
So, if I look at electrical cables, a substantial portion of that would go into construction, about 60-65%. About 10 to 12% automobiles, 10 to 12% agricultural applications. The remaining would go to industrial applications.
Yeah, that's nice. And I have one more question. Can you comment? Yeah, can you comment on the competitive environment on the both the segments like wire and cables and the FMEG segment?
Okay, wire and cables, like I mentioned earlier, both are fairly about the same size as far as market goes, between 23,000-25,000 crores each. We are largely present in the wire side and less so on the cable side. Because the cable part of it, the exposure is mainly to distribution utilities, and knowing the current and also the past financial strength of most of the distribution utilities, we've been staying away from this part of the business. On the wire side, we are fairly strong. We are more or less well represented in almost all over the country. Of course, our strength lies in the west and the south, but we are also increasing our reach in the north and the east. In terms of competitiveness, there are a few large players in the market. Competition is fairly intense. Some of them do resort to price-based competition, but I think price-based competition in the long run is not something that is sustainable. You can gain a little bit of market share by dropping prices, but then you have to cover your costs at some point in time. So I think that's not a sustainable model to keep dropping prices to gather larger market share. But yes, the competition is fairly intense. Like I said, we are very strong in the south and the west, but there are other players who are stronger in the north or the east, or some of them in the west as well. So, what else do you want me to say here? I mean, I'm running out of words here.
Yeah, it's related to FMEG segment.
Okay. FMEG, we are a much smaller player. I think we have seen light volumes improving. We have seen volumes improving in switches and the switchgear business. But then there is a fairly large price erosion in all these three segments. Fans, we've had a tough time in the last 1-2 quarters. I think we are improving our product profile there, and with the help of a better distribution now, I think we should start to see better results going forward. But yes, As much as you have wire manufacturers getting into appliances, you also have appliance manufacturers getting into wires. So the competition is intense. But eventually, in the longer period, service levels, product quality, and of course, product availability and pricing will all matter, will decide who matters at the end. And there, I think the brand of the company will keep us ahead.
Thank you so much for the question and all of this.
Thank you. The next question is from the Mukesh Patil, who is an individual investor. Please go ahead. Mr. Patil, your line is unmuted. You can proceed with your question.
Thank you for the opportunity. Just want to know what kind of margins you are making on cable business and wire business.
So cables and wire, the blended margin is about 12%. That is what that's there in the segment results. As I mentioned, cables, we are a very small player, so we are extremely selective out there. Since out of the total, let's say last year we sold 3,700 crores worth of cables and wires, out of which cables was 150. So a higher number there or a lower number there doesn't really impact the overall vision of the business. Typically, we have been averaging around 13.5 to 14% in this segment. And if you look back into history, our margins have always been one of the highest in the business, in the industry. And our aim is to keep it there.
That's it for me.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Manoj Gori from Equirus Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, sir. Really, something that you already mentioned about the construction activity looks promising. So what we hear from the ground checks is, probably in FY25, somewhere around first quarter, second quarter, we might see many projects nearing the completion stage. And that should lead to strong volumes of wires especially, which has relatively underperformed versus cables, and we are relatively wire-heavy business. So how do you see, probably from FY25 point of view, not on the guidance side, but at least on the industry side, probably mid-teens or even higher than that volume can be anticipated for the year, given that this year the base also for the industry would be relatively on the lower side?
I think that is what I mentioned a few minutes ago when one of the other participants asked a question. What would be the volume increase? You are at 8 or 9% now, so how do you look at it? I think the mid-teens is something that is possible to achieve and would be a sustainable number, I think. Provided, of course, there are no drastic changes in the economic or political scenario going forward.
But depending on the current visibility, probably for FY25, we are confident of industry doing this 15% kind of growth in wire segment.
I think so, because all the components, whether it is construction or automobiles or industrial growth, all of them are headed for a growth scenario. I think we should also plan for similar numbers.
Thanks, sir. Secondly, if we look at the current quarter performance, probably for last couple of quarters, when we look at the other listed players, especially the commentary on the wires growth, we somewhere we do see that Finolex cables is underperforming. So what are the reasons that you would attribute, and have you seen any significant market share losses into South and West market?
There have been occasions when price has played a part. Like I said, it is not something that is going to be sustainable in the long run. So how much do you drop price? You have to recover your cost at some point in time, and gaining top line for the sake of gaining top line is not going to add anything to you. So yes, there have been some instances when we have seen that. But I think largely our share has been in the ballpark of 23-24% within the wires space. Yes, it is lower than what it used to be 40 years ago, but that is expected given that more players have come into the market.
Right, sir. So, lastly, if you look at, just want to get some clarity. So, from the promoter side, if you look at who is probably looking after the day-to-day operations, can you throw some light over there?
I mean, at the moment there is nobody, no?
Okay. So currently, if you look at both the promoters, probably nobody has any active role in the probably on the business side. Is that correct?
So, yeah, that's correct.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Participants may press star and 1 to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Shivam Mittal from Punartha Investment Advisors Private Limited. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. What is the advertisement spend we are targeting?
Sorry to interrupt. Mr. Mittal, your line is not clear. It's sounding a bit muffled. Can you use the handset mode, please?
I'm in the handset mode. It is better now?
Yeah, it is better now.
Sir, what is the advertisement spend we are targeting for FY2025?
All told, ad plus additional support to marketing, all told, we will be somewhere around 50 this year, I think.
70. Hello?
Yeah.
50 to 70?
I said we will be somewhere around 50.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Mukesh Patel, who's an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity, sir. Just have one clarity. So, as you have said, in global market, the prices of OFCs are coming down, and still we are increasing our capacity in optical fibers. So, how do we going about this business, and what kind of margins we can expect from this business in medium to long term?
Okay. There are cycles which happen in every business, and so there is an investment cycle when people are investing, and then it stabilizes, and then at that point in time, probably the demand peters down a little bit. This price situation is more to do with the economic cycles slowing down a little bit in China, and investment coming down a little bit in China. But I don't think that is something that you will expect to continue for years together in the future. They have shown year-on-year growth for the past 15 years at least, from a consumption level of about 90 million kilometers to currently 400 million kilometers every year. But then over a period of time, they've also created capacities, and when they cancel out a couple of tenders, then that material becomes available globally and results in a drop in price. These would be hopefully temporary phenomena. At the same time, like I mentioned earlier, our consumption, India's consumption today of fiber is in the 20 million kilometer range. Our ability to consume is much higher. We should be at least 50-60 million kilometers at this point in time. But for certain issues around funding those projects, so I think that will happen sooner than later. And whenever that happens, one needs to be prepared with the capacity to be able to handle it, because these are time-consuming projects. It's not easy to put up a preform project in quick time. It requires a year and a half to materialize. So we are getting ready ahead of the curve. That's for sure. But at the same time, we also have some visibility to the kind of projects which the governments want to bring to the country. So one is the BharatNet connectivity. There are other proposals in hand to deploy fiber on large scale for multiple purposes. And I think all that will result in demand growing to higher than 35, 40, and eventually to the 50 million range. So I think, yes, the timelines may not sometimes exactly coincide with our plans, but eventually that need is definitely.
And some margins, what kind of margins we can generate?
So since we are trying to backward integrate as well, today what we are doing is we do not make preforms. We have to buy them from the market, and therefore we are dependent on certain suppliers for that product. So if we gain more control at the back end of the process, we believe that it will add to the margins. So when the plant is operating at, let's say, 70-75% of capacity, all from start to end, the margin should be in the double digits.
Okay, and imported cables from China, specifically overseas, compared to domestic make, what is the price difference? Is it positive or negative?
No, sorry, I didn't get you. Imported what?
Imported fiber cables from China vis-a-vis the domestic make of fiber cables. The price difference, how much it is?
So see, today cables are not imported from China, but fiber is imported from China. And there is, after a lot of representation, the government has brought in anti-dumping duties. But then the effective landing price has dropped to somewhere around 270 rupees a kilometer. So that's where the prices have dropped to at this point in time.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
And this is for the standard fiber. There are multiple configurations of fiber where the properties are different, and those would be higher, much higher than that.
Okay.
Thank you. The last question is from the line of Hitesh Advani, who is an individual investor. Please go ahead. Mr. Advani, your line is unmuted. You can please proceed with your question.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
Am I audible?
Very clear.
I just wanted to ask, what is, say, your guidance over the growth of different segments that our company is working on, like FMEG or electrical, housing wires, like the demand is, like a few of our competitors are saying that the demand is around, growth is around 20 to 25% in the electrical wire cables. So what is your view on that?
I think we spoke about it a little bit in this call as well. We are more skewed to the wire portion of the business rather than the cables portion. And in the last 1 year, cables have done very, very well. Probably an indication of how much infra is getting developed within the country. On the wire side, yes, there is growth, but like an earlier caller asked, I think we would see higher levels of growth when the current investment in construction nears its end of completion. The wires come at the tail end of the construction part. So the growth visibility would be more towards the end of those cycles. And somebody asked a question, would I see a higher volume growth in FY25? And I said yes. So that's probably how I would see it.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. That's all from my side.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining Q3 and FY24 earnings conference call of Finolex Cables Limited. We conclude today's conference call. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.
Thank you so much.